I've really started enjoying doing drugs. I was not addicted on any one thing. I've never taken like the really hard stuff like meth or cocaine or stuff like that, but a lot of psychedelics like LSD and mushrooms and MDMA and party drugs. Like it was more about not being addicted to one particular thing, but just not being sober, but always being on something, even if it's just getting drunk or smoking weed or anything else. Yeah, so there was also a lot of curiosity, but that was the life that I lived. Yeah.
Stefan,
Hmm.
have you always known God?
That depends on how we interpret, to know someone. I think I've always been aware that there is a God, and due to my parents being Christian, I was always also told that it's the God of the Bible, which I also believed because I was told so mostly, but I don't think. On the other hand, I don't think I've ever stopped knowing him more and more, and I don't think it. I know him enough yet. I think that's like a journey for the entire life.
So where did the journey begin?
Yeah, so mostly the journey began in my childhood because my parents were Christian and they took me to the church, but that's not usually where I think I've met God or encountered God. One of my earliest memories where I was really uh, aware of like him being there, not just heard of him, was when they took me. We went to this. It's like camp. It's called Pastorálka in Czech. It's like where it's just basically Christians from many churches rent out like a cottage camp and they live there. And there were some program. I don't remember the details too well because I was quite small. I think I was like 5 maybe or 6, and then there was a children program, and we went to play to the forest, and we were uh, I was always very curious, so I went a little bit ahead and checked a little bit of this and of that, and before I know it, I was lost, absolutely lost, like in the forest. I didn't know how to get back, so I went in some circles or something. I I had no idea, and then I know that I've prayed to God and I asked Him to help me. And just when I said Amen, I just saw 2 people walking there in the distance. So I immediately ran towards them and I asked them where the camp is. And then they showed me the road, and it was quite nearby. So they they directed me back to the camp. So, and that was my earliest, like, when I know that God did this for me, that He really did answer my prayer and He was there with me. So that's one of the earliest memories I have.
Can you tell me something about your upbringing then?
Of course. So, how to where to start? My parents, they were both Christians when I was born, and my father was a worship leader, and also at some point in my childhood, I don't exactly remember when, he became an elder in the church, and I feel we moved a lot because I think I've moved like 5 times before I became an adult. So, and of course, like, now I understand my parents more, and I have forgiven them. But because they had, they were just humans. Me as a child, I thought they are supposed to be perfect. They're supposed to not, make mistakes and then tell us not to make the same mistakes. But It was complicated. They were quick to anger, both of them, with each other and with us. So, and yeah, I don't know what details I want to like go in and.
So why did you move 4 or 5 times?
I think they just wanted to to try new stuff. First we had an apartment, then we had a house in a like middle of nothing, middle of the forest, like not even a village. Then we went in like a few villages, and then when I started attending the gymnasium, the high school, I started living in dorm here in Budějovice. So that was my like final move, like live somewhere else. Yeah, I think.
You said you were 5 when you had your first remembrance, your first encounter with God that you still remember?
Yeah, this is. I think I was around 5. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah.
Is this also the age that you gave yourself to Him?
No, that came much later. I don't think I was at the age where I would understand what that even like means. So, but most of what I think had really brought me to Christ's closeness were camps where my parents would send me sometimes twice a year. One of them was boys only. One of them were mixed boys and girls, and all of them were Christian and made by Christian leaders. So, and I think that's where I, usually during some worship night that we had like at like one of the last days of the camp, that's where I remember that I really, felt supernatural, like, I'm somewhere else in heaven. Yeah. I think it's especially the boy camps. They really, I'd say I didn't have a lot of like some exemplary males, let's say, in in my life, real, someone to look up to, like with my father. I don't think I want to go to details. As I said, I've forgiven him, but I think like he was not exactly that. and um, and yeah, there were a lot of adult men who were handling me like a boy, which means sometimes punishment, a lot of punishment, like push-ups and bringing water and a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, I think but at the same time they were Christian, so they always told us through stories from the Bible and stuff, the way of life. Yeah.
How important was this for you?
Yeah, I think this was the most important for my spiritual life in that part of my life, which was like from, I don't know, 10 to 16, 15, maybe something like that. This yeah.
Is this only something you
early teen or preteen? Yeah.
Is this something you only see when you look back at it, or is this also something that you saw at the time, at the moment?
No, that's more of a retrospective right now that I see now. But it was at one of these camps when I decided to give my life to Jesus at the age of 12.
Can you tell me this story?
Yeah, it was during a worship night. Before this was the camp that were both for girls and boys. We heard some really crazy stories. There were for a 12-year-old to hear, like it was at a place and on under a hill, and on the top of the hill there's a chapel, and they were telling stories of exorcism at that very place there. So there was really they just show us this is what the spiritual realm is, this is what the spiritual battles that happened, which was really strong to hear at that point. But also there were some more like incredible testimonies. I don't remember exactly the details, it's been a while, but then I know that when the worship night started, I started really cry a lot, and I really finally realized what it means for me to be a sinner and for Christ to die for my sin. I think that was the first time that I really like processed it. Yeah.
And you was 12 at the moment that this
Yes.
happened.
Yes.
Can you take me along your journey from the moment you were baptized? Let's go from this moment
Yes.
until now,
Yeah.
and what happened in between?
Yes. So that's very important, I think, because yeah, after I got myself baptized, I started also serving in the church in worship. I played some, percussion like djembes and bongos and stuff like that. We had no drums, so that's. And later I started to play drums as well. So in the years between, I think 12 and 15 to 16, I've been, it was quite good. I was attending a Christian high school also then, and I had quite a lot of contact with Christians, and no really, uh, nothing really, strayed me away. But maybe it was a little bit of an early call anyway, because when I moved to the dorm, also this is the time that many people start partying, drinking, hanging out at parties and stuff like. At least here in Czech Republic, like I first got drunk when I was 14, which is like maybe not nowadays, but in my time that was quite like normal, I think. Yeah. So I think that's what started me, pushing towards pushing towards the world, and yeah, then it got to a point where also there was one other breaking point, because our entire family and a few others, I think two more families, have left the church that we were attending back then. The story was also for a long time, but in a nutshell, a pastor that we had was called by God to serve somewhere else. So then we rejoined another church, the Methodists, and they have given us, first pastor, which was very nice, but they have to rotate pastors. It's in the Methodist, rules that they have to, rotate. So, and then we got another one, and that's where everything went right. The Holy Spirit left, and then, it was pretty felt by the other ones. A lot of tradition and like ceremony started going in, like in a style of like repeating like pre-written prayers and verses. And it was just, we could just feel that, Holy Spirit was not there, that it was, just men, leading the church. I felt it. I didn't understand it that well back then, but then several families decided to leave this church, including mine, and it's then we started looking for a new one. That's the first time I've been in the church where I am now. I think that was also a very important moment, because I got to taste where I'm going to be in the future. Yeah, but then I don't think, like, my father's and both my siblings, they stopped going to church completely. My mother only attended a home group. I think she's the most like faithful in the family. Yeah, and I also stopped, and I started partying a lot and living on my own terms and accords. Yeah, I've never stopped believing that there is a God, or even that is a Christian God. I've never stopped believing that, but I was just living on my own terms, and this lasted until I was 24, I think, or 23, something like that. And in that time, I've really started enjoying doing drugs. I was not addicted on any one thing. I've never taken like the really hard stuff like meth or cocaine or stuff like that, but a lot of psychedelics like LSD and mushrooms and MDMA and party drugs. Like, it was more about not being addicted to one particular thing, but just not being sober, but always being on something, even if it's just getting drunk or smoking weed or anything else. Yeah, so there was also a lot of curiosity, but that was the life that I lived. Yeah, during this year mostly. I worked as a customer service operator on a phone for also, I think, in total for 4 years, and the entire time I haven't really, uh, well, I had a little bit of career progress, you could say, but not really much. I was not moving anywhere in my life. It was just, 9 to 5 job, and then go in the evening and get high, and on the weekend go party the whole time, with my friends. Yeah, so that's the point. So I was not really with Christ at that time. I always presented myself as a Christian to other people, which I think is maybe like even worse. But I just wanted to show, not all of us are like this super, polite, well-behaved boys. We can be, cool also and do all this stuff. Yeah, I regret that. It was on Easter where I went just out of, more out of habit, go to the church with my family, to one I haven't been one before. And exactly that was the point when I heard God's voice telling me that, he wants me back. He wants me to be with him, and that he wants me to stop doing all drugs. And I've kind of listened. I didn't stop everything, but I haven't stopped doing weed or drinking alcohol, but I've stopped all the other stuff, which is a good first step maybe. So since that time forward, there were a few instances when I would try some other stuff, but never I was in the way of life I used to be before, that I need to be constantly, well, I needed to be constantly high after that. That took some more time, but but yeah, I've stopped doing like a lot of the psychedelic stuff and the harder stuff. Yeah. And I've started, thinking, what should I do with my life? I've realized that I haven't, moved. Like, yeah, I'm just stagnating, and I'm starting to see like waking up from a dream. That it was not all. My life was not in such a good shape. But that's what the drugs do too. They make you think that everything's, at least weed mostly. It makes you think everything's all right. You don't realize you have a problem. You don't realize that your friends are worried about you. You just feel like, yeah, it's all going quite well. Yeah, no problem there. Yeah. At this point, I start to realize that I really need to change something. And my parents always told me that I should go abroad to just, see the world and learn, just, to that it will give me a lot. So I applied to a summer job in Greece, on the Crete island, and where I would live for like 3 months. So I've say goodbye to my job. I've packed my stuff. I didn't have a lot. I didn't like to have a lot. I still don't to have a lot of stuff. And I've moved to Greece, and I've met some people there, actually, Czech people also, and Slovak. So we would hang out a lot. I was not quite alone there. And because I was used to, smoking weed all the time, I started, to finding out how to get it there. It was possible, let's just say. But one Czech girl who was there with me, she has her own life story, and she also went there to have some sort of a, restart, or like new start, just, delete everything and start anew, or just, sort yourself out. And she told me that when I'm doing this, maybe I should also try not smoking weed, because maybe that's another thing that I should change about my life. And so I said okay, and for the time I was there, I did not smoke weed again. I still drank a lot, but yeah, that went by. It was great. I started learning about health there. Started taking my body a little bit more seriously. I've started, praying and reading the Bible again. The rest was kind of success. And then when I went back to the Czech Republic, just after a few days, I met with my friends and I smoked some weed with them, and I felt that I don't really like it, because I was just in my head all the time. I couldn't really say anything funny, and it just felt really like I want to go home, and I found out that I don't enjoy it anymore. So that was the breaking point. And then I've moved to Brno. Here in Czech Republic, I found another job, which is again a customer service operator. I started attending the university, which I did not finish, but I said to myself that I need to surround myself with Christian people. So that was my primary task, was to find a church, and I've also joined a youth group when I would help out, do translators for people who came from abroad, or also do some worship, play guitar and bass and stuff like that. So this like half of my life started going really well, but still I would live like this throughout the week. But on the weekend I would meet up with some friend, go to a party, smoke some weed, drink some alcohol and party, and then again during the week I was a goodbye. So I still felt like I'm halfway. I'm just one foot in the kingdom of God, one foot in the world. So, and then another person, one person, she's quite a popular, I think, like half influential, let's say, in Czech Christian scene. She's called Janet Obrechtová, and she told her testimony from the Bible school in Sweden. At the time, I was in a church called Slovo života, which is the Czech branch of the Swedish Livets Urt, which is and they have a Bible school in Uppsala. And she told us her testimony, and she spoke out of my out of my heart, because she said a lot of also. Let's say she probably had a similar story to me, and she said a lot of the stuff that I've said to you now. And at that point I saw that that's the way, that's the way, really, not to do it, to do it fully, to really go, for a total dedication to God. Because even when I went to Greece, it was not, for him. It was, for me, and it sorted out some stuff, but not everything. But this, I thought, I will be, exposed to God's word each day, every day, in a lot of, a lot. So that's when I felt God calling me to the Bible school in Sweden. And but the thing is, they don't provide you any accommodation, they don't provide you any work, anything, and you also need to pay them for the school, and also sort yourself out in Sweden without knowing the language and all the stuff. So there was, but for me, there was another, like, how God is merciful, because I've written on Reddit, on the Reddit of the town Uppsala. And also, do you know what's the, how, what they tell Swedish people are like? They are not the warmest, welcoming, open, open hand, super kind, super, friendly people in the world. I've heard that about Mexicans, that they are like that, but definitely not Swedish people. So, but I've posted on the Uppsala subreddit and asked if someone could provide me, with a little bit of accommodation. And a complete stranger on the internet just, say, yes, you can live with me for 1 month, and he did not know me and anything. He just know that I went to Bible school there. It was a crazy step of faith, a leap of faith, I would say. But yeah, I went and I've met with him. He was very Swedish, but very kind, but very quiet and introverted. But he let me stay at his place. He even gave me some food until I've sorted myself out a little bit more. So that was like, I couldn't understand that it was happening, but it was a great testimony just to start, because the first night everyone would say something about them, and also we would ask where are you staying, where are you living, and so that was a really great starting testimony to share, and many people shared many crazy testimonies who decided to go to the Bible school. So the entire experience, it was crazy. I was still so stupid back then. I have made so many mistakes even during the Bible school, and but it was really life-changing, I think. The danger is that you live in this Christian bubble, that you really start forgetting what living in the real world is. So that was a big shock when I was really there on one of my highest points in my relationship with Christ, but a lot of that was held by just the circumstances and the environment and everything, and just I had to do it because I paid for this school, and so it really forces you to be with God. And then when I came back, I started to learn that the normal world doesn't force you, that it forces you to go away from God. So that was that was crazy. I like warm places. I like abroad places. I don't really. I like people like very friendly and extroverted, like loud people. And when I was coming back, I was 100% certain that I'm not staying here for long, that I'm just, packing up my stuff and going to a mission somewhere. And that was crazy. Yeah. And now I see that you need like people behind you when you go to a mission, like entire church, for example, who prays for you and blesses you and yeah. So I thought I could just, go. It did not happen, fortunately. There were some other stuff that happened when I came back. I've realized that, I've met my first big mistake was just, I came back, I needed a job, I needed starting to work. My friend, he was doing like this stage hand stuff, like building up stages, and he asked me to go with him, and without asking God, without praying, I just say yes, this sounds perfect, this sounds so good, I really wanted to do it. And then it ruined a lot of stuff. We were not paid for that because the guy just ran away, so I didn't receive almost any money for that work, and a lot of other stuff that I don't have time to go into now happened because of the decision. So that's also when I learned, like, I need to really ask about stuff. And yeah, but it almost stayed like, I think that's where it really started. Actually, that's when I think that's the first time I could say that I somewhat knew God after coming back from the Bible school. I think I came back like a different person. Yeah. And I think that would be the first time that I can really say I felt like I somewhat really knew God. Not just knew about him, but knew him.
So you told us about the church service that you visited while Easter. What happened
Yes.
in the church service that drew you back?
When I got baptized, I promised. It's a promise. It's a yeah. It's a promise. Like in wedding, two people promise to each other that they will be together in the good and in the bad. Baptism is a promise between you and God in a similar way. And I just realized that this is, you know, what I'm supposed to be. This is my culture. This is my, you know, identity. And I really heard God tell me that He wants me back here, not, you know, where I was in the world, but in His kingdom, on you know, that I'm supposed to be on His side.
How did you hear this?
Mm, well, like not physically inside my mind, but there were some, you know, sometimes it can be dubious whether it's your own thoughts or not, but this I felt it's from God. And even if it's my thoughts, they are from God, or from, you know, now I would say maybe they are from my, you know, reborn, a new creation, you know, asking me to go back. But the new creation is like connected to God. So in all always it was just God's will for me to form these thoughts. Yeah, that's I think what I mean when I say I heard God. Yeah.
What happened in the years after the Bible college?
Yeah. Uh, First few months it went quite well, but then this thing called the coronavirus happened, and churches closed, and we you were not allowed to visit anyone. So, and I'm extroverted. I handled it really bad, and to cope with that, I started drinking, and I started drinking a lot, even by myself at home, just, you know, just until the night. I just finished my almost like maybe 4 times a week. I went to bed drunk, like a lot drunk. And then again, I started, you know, it started. Um, I had a bad conscience. I felt that this is not good, but you know. But then my friend, she was also in the Bible school with me. She told me that her church, which is the church that I'm in right now. Oh, because first I started visiting the church where my mother goes now, which is a different one. I started meeting up with a home group there also, but then because of COVID, everything shut down. So but then my friend of me, she's told me that they are meeting as a church just online, that they just, you know, in Sunday they're just, you know, calling and sharing a little bit with each other and stuff like that. And at the same time, the church were praying, and they were holding this fasting / prayer chain where each day at least one person, you know, fasts and prays for some topics in the church, and they were praying for people to the service with media, like cameras and lights and sounds in the church and stuff like that. And they were also praying for new members to the church. And I think I was just the, you know, it was just super. I was just the answer to the prayer. So I've met with them twice. I've connected twice to the Sunday, and then I've heard, because each time they prayed for these topics also there, and then I contacted the pastor and say, hey, I'm quite, you know, I can do this, and I think I think I could do this. Oh, and also, exactly at that point, God has delivered me from alcohol. Since then, I've never had any alcohol. A few years sometimes when I had like a birthday party, I would just sip just a little bit. I don't do that anymore. I didn't like it. I just the little sip. I felt it that it's, you know, messing me up. So I'm not drinking any alcohol. I never will again. It's not even tempting to me. There's other more tempting stuff for me, like weed, but not alcohol. Yeah, and yeah, so that was at the same, like at the same day. I don't know, I just, you know, my bad conscience, it went to a point where I just thought I must not do this, God help me. And then like this, I just, since then I never want to drink. I don't miss anything. It just completely went away. Like really, that was a crazy miracle. A lot of my stuff, when I was delivered from some stuff, it was not like this. It was maybe it took maybe some more time or longer time. This was like immediate. So, and I really think alcohol is one of the most dangerous and destructive drug there is, and its power is because people underestimate it and they do not, see it on the same level as the other drugs, when it's like more harmful than even some other drugs, I would say. Yeah. So
If you look back now
yeah.
and you look at the moments you encountered God in the ways you described, being a boy, 12 years old,
Yeah.
doing the baptism,
Yeah.
um, being delivered from alcohol in
Yeah.
such a quick moment.
Yeah.
How many of these moments did you have until now?
I think it is less than 10. I'm not sure exactly. Well, I had like, it's not like I've only met God 10 times, but such a strong moments I think it will be around 10-ish, I think.
What was the biggest influence of these moments on your life?
Well, yeah, I think that's the influence was that I was not I did not have to rely on myself or on my own powers, because a lot of time when I struggling with something, I try to push through and persist and stuff like that, and a lot of time it fails. And but these were the moments where just God helped push me. I couldn't do it on my own, and he saw it, and he pushed me over the hole or over the gap, or just the obstacle. I don't know, you see what I mean. Yeah. So I think that was one of the strongest thing about them. Yeah.
What is the biggest difference for you in your life, further away from God and now being closer to Him?
I think it's I see, or it makes sense. My life makes sense. I see somewhat where I'm headed. I know what God where God wants me to be, not in super detail, but even the general idea of how Jesus lived. I just I'm not lost. I don't feel lost. I feel like and the funny thing is, if you have like a plain field with nothing on it, you really don't know how to go. But a path, it has borders, it has limits where this is the path and this is not the path, and this can show you where to go. And I feel living it with God gives you these limits and restriction that you want. It's not limitation like we're taking away of freedom. You can do just these things and not the other one, but it's to give you a direction. So I feel really being close with God also helps me to stay within the borders of His path, and walk it, and even like see it and see that I don't know where to go. I have a direction. I don't need to look around a playing field that is all the same with nothing, showing me where to go. It's true, I can go everywhere I want, but I have freedom, but I don't have a sense. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the biggest difference.
If you could choose to do it all over again, would you do exactly the same things?
There's a lot of stuff that I regret, but I think every part of it was needed for me. I haven't said one thing that I think is super important in the whole story, and that is when I got baptized when I was 12, because I haven't been alive for so long, obviously, and second because I was raised in the a Christian environment. I did feel like a saved sinner at that point, but I did not really. I did not have so much, stuff to be forgiven. Those like the parable with the two, like the king forgives the two that owe him money, and to one he forgives a much bigger amount, and that's the one who will be more grateful to him. So I think I just really still need it in my head, probably, to go through some mess ups in my life and to really, yeah, I just needed to be saved, like really feel like really see a lot of bad stuff and got to a really low point to be able to appreciate what Jesus has done for me.
Are you now arrived at this moment that you understand what he did better?
Yes, I believe that was when I at each of these turning points I think I mentioned helped me, appreciate it more and more. And I'm also sure that I will always come back to him. I can't, I can stray away a little bit or a little bit more for shorter or for longer, but I know there's something to me that is drawn like a moth to flame, that I just in my, uh, the nature of my being knows that it belongs to Christ, and that even if I, get lost, that I will always come back to. I just can't stand the world. Even if in short term, it might give me some, temporary pleasure or fun or something. I think my like inner being really can't stand it, and it's just a battle, between the flesh and the spirit. Yeah.
If there's one thing that you could share with the whole world, what would it be?
Oh, what people usually think about the church and Christians who are not really just know some of them or just heard some stories or some old stories. Or are very influenced by the teaching of the Catholic Church or just the Catholic Church in general. This is not who Christ is. Christ is a person that you can, meet yourself and talk to and have a relationship with. And you should, I think, in order to understand what Christianity is about, if you just need to read the gospel, just one, maybe Matthew is a really nice one, and then maybe make an opinion on what Christianity is about, because there's a lot of misrepresentation from other Christians and misinterpretation from non-believers.
Why is this so important to you that people know this?
I think that the gospel has been overshadowed by, at least in Czech Republic, many people, when they told me what they know or think about Christianity, it's completely different than what Christianity is actually about. So I think the power of the gospel has been like overshadowed by this, the culture and just the collective, or also the acts of several different churches throughout the history, or people who claim to be Christian. But that is now ingrained in the general public consciousness, and I don't like it. I think people should know what it's really about. Yeah.
Am I correct in concluding that you have seen this power of the gospel in your own life?
Definitely, yes.
And therefore you would like other people to experience the same.
Yeah, because it just, if you are if you feel like you're out of option, just call out to him. Just try it, You don't have to go to church or I don't know, tithe or anything. Just call out to him. Yeah.
Any final words?
Thank you for having me. I hope it made sense. It's been a while since I told this testimony last time, but I hope this will help people to find God and will serve to maybe help some people realize something, or help them in a similar situation if they see themselves in my story. And I pray for that in Christ's name.
Stefan, where can people reach you if they want to reach out?
LinkedIn. That's I mostly for like business, but it's probably the most public profile I have. Other than that, I don't really do social media. But I have. You can, if you have LinkedIn, you can send me a message there, and then we can move to some another platform.
Which handles should they look up to
Oh
find you?
yeah, under LinkedIn, I'm under my real name, which is Stefan Foldesi. Yeah, I hope that will be somewhere in the
Yeah.
video title because it's hard to spell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stefan, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.